Hello, everyone. We've got a special, oh my God, edition of the Sanctuary Hub live schedule because Gracie Boyd is here in person, which makes me so happy and also Willow so happy because she loves her auntie. So we're going to have some fun. Willow is just like so excited. Look at that face. She's like, my auntie's here. Everything is good with the world. I get to, hi, Samson. So Willow's really stoked about life, and I am also stoked about life. And oh yeah, I know. And so today we are going to be chatting. Hi, Willow. We are going to be chatting about Sanctuary, and then we're going to get off the live and continue chatting and playing catch up because I haven't seen this one in far too long. Oh, dear God. Okay, and Willow will potentially calm down, but possibly not, because she really loves her Auntie Grace. So,
basically like two dogs.
So, Grace is the other half of my coven. And she's one of my dear ones and has been traveling more than usual, but also like not more than usual. So Grace is somebody who like will make plans and then I'll get a text from her at the airport being like, I'm about to peace out to Costa Rica for 3 weeks. I'm like, cool, that's part of being like loving Grace is accepting that if Wanderlust takes in, then Wanderlust has taken over, and you just accept it. So you've just come back from being in Europe in beautiful locations.
Lovely.
And now you're home, which is very lovely. And you also have now, like, as permanently as you ever relocate, you've permanently relocated to the East Coast, which also is, so, like, basically I just need to move home to the ocean, is where we're at. But you are literally good at everything that you put your hands on. So, like, officially Grace is a dirt witch and is a ceramicist who you harvest your clays and your glazes, very land-based practice. But then also you're like a speed skater and a goldsmith and like designs perfectly fitting knitted garments every year. We always have like a check-in. I know, Samson, I'm working on it. And so you're literally good at everything, which if I didn't love you so much would be really annoying, but I love you so much, so I'm just like, she's just the coolest person ever.
I just use my witchy powers for good, not evil. That's like, you know?
So, what have you been up to?
As you mentioned, I've been traveling. I went to Europe. I took off and I was like, I'm going to go to Spain. So I left basically the week after classes ended.
Perfect, because you're doing your master's in fine arts.
Just finishing it up. I'm so excited.
That's delightful. As somebody who also finished their master's, it is great when you finish that.
Oh man, I can see that finish line and it's like, ooh, it looks nice over there.
So excited to be over there.
It's like, ooh, it's like, I'm going to read for pleasure and it's going to be the best thing in the world.
Yes, that's honestly like when my mom actually did her master's, that was what killed her love of reading for her because you are reading so fucking much.
So much. And everything you read, you're like, oh, this applies, and this applies, and this applies, and this applies. And you start finding these like funny little like connection points in everything. You're like, it's like, I'm reading Red is Best. This has nothing to do with my thesis. Like, I'm reading...
But I'm making it have something to do with my yeah. Everything goes through that lens.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, but it's wonderful. And then I took off from Spain and went to Italy.
Yes.
So I landed in Rome, and then I spent a whole 4 hours in Paris.
It's the way we roll in Europe. You're just kind of like, I'm here, I'm gone.
And I'm gone. And then I came back to the East Coast, which is wonderful.
Yes.
And then I meandered back to my lovely prairie home. Good. Yeah, and I landed in this soft nest.
Yay. So happy to always have you here whenever you do come up. Willow, stop eating your stuffy. Good Lord. Sanctuary, yes. Soft nests. We both love our soft nests.
We do. And our things.
Yeah, we're both very, like, neither of us is a minimalist, which I think is part of, like, why we so quickly bonded. The first time that we met,
Oh my
was
God.
at another artist's
a pop-up sale?
pop-up sale,
Yeah.
and you were selling lovely things, but you had literally made paintbrushes with squirrel fur.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about the bones, and you were telling me about the mobiles that you'd made with the squirrel bones, roadkill squirrel. And I was like, oh, this person needs to be in my life forever.
And that was it.
Yeah, it was.
You invited me to your house sale.
That's
then.
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and we
that's-
sat on the floor and ate pickles for like 3 hours.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody showed up really that day. It was like a really slow. The weather. It was like a Christmas sale, so like that time of year always means that there's snowstorms, and yeah, it was super slow and perfect because we just got to have floor pickles.
Which was perfect.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know until it was happening that all I needed and wanted was floor pickles.
Oh man. So when it comes to the concept of sanctuary, I think especially where you're such a nomad and like I am always so fascinated by the way that you like move through life and cultivate home because you do set like really solid roots, but then you also are you're also consistently on the move and like every opportunity for adventure you take it and so I that combination of like two quite extremes I think is really interesting and also like
And they don't always agree.
right
Like
yes
to want things in space
yes
doesn't necessarily equal like freedom to most people, right? Like
Yeah.
you need to be able to let go of all of that.
Yes.
To be able to go travel or visit or run away for a little bit.
Yes.
But I have so many things.
This is the thing, right? Like, and like, as a ceramicist, like, it's not like your things are like light and breezy and easy to, like, you're literally like carrying coffee mugs with you as you're traveling. And it makes life so much better to have those coffee
It
mugs.
does.
My morning coffee is always made, I always have it out of the exact same mug that you made. And anytime that I'm like feeding other people alcohol, I'm like, here's the cuddle cups. This is what we're using.
We're gonna move to the other cuddle
Yeah.
cups, then we're gonna move to the big cuddle
Yes,
cups.
exactly. Yeah, like literally, it is always the vessels that you have made me is what I use for myself and then everybody else. But yeah, I mean, if you're traveling and flying around the world and backpacking and all these things, like in theory, a ceramic mug is not the no, but it makes life happier. So,
It does.
how do you kind of like navigate that whole like
Stuff.
yeah?
Oh man. I'm notoriously an actual minimalist packer, and then I throw all of my stuff on top of it, and then I'm like, I went from having like 2 outfits to like having 2 outfits and a million tchotchkes in my bag. I was like, right, but I can't live without them.
Yes.
I can't. And as much as I don't mind going without them for short periods of time, like, my silk scarf, I can't.
Not
Like,
have, well, and
I
also
can't not
like
have it.
short times. Like I feel like often you're like, I'm gonna go away for a week, and then you're gone for like 4 weeks.
Yes. So let's be real here. Yeah. Every time I say, I'll just be a weekend, it'll be like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my safe space, and I realized this more so traveling in cities. I never really had the same attachment out in the wild, but my backpack became my tiny little temple. Yeah.
When are you stop eating
Totally
random?
just nomming down on
Oh,
it.
she's got like
flossing.
yeah.
Delicious.
Oh, this is what our life becomes. Is that we're like deep in the midst of conversation, then
We're like, dog.
yeah. Good Lord. So as you were saying,
Just backpack becoming a temple, right? Like it just became this like really, all of my stuff could go in it. You
Yes.
know, my day bag just became this like mobile, tiny, almost altar-y space.
yeah, I was just thinking altar. Yeah,
It's totally altar-y.
that's such
you know?
an interesting idea of like small bag or like little backpack as like portable altar.
Like I would always keep my mug because
Yes.
I travel internationally, I backpack, I do all that with a mug that I've made. It's my thing.
Yes.
I love it. I don't not do it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I brought a teapot with me this time that I traveled.
that is hilarious. That
Like,
there's so many little. I'm thinking of like all the different like spouts and things of the teapot.
I know.
There's so many pieces.
There's a lot of pieces. it's a precarious object to bring with you anywhere.
It's a precarious object to take off the shelf.
Yeah.
Like,
So, but it was just like, what do I want? Well, I'm also preparing for Folk Fest. There's the
Yes.
Winnipeg Folk Festival's happening.
yes.
And I've decided for myself that I would just like to sit and drink tea and listen to good music. So I'm also going to
delightful.
bring my teapot to Folk Fest.
I feel like Folk Fest is a space though where that's like not bizarre to me. Like when I think of
no.
the things that people bring with them to Folk Fest, I'm like, I guess so. Like that does make sense that you brought half a house with you.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
My rug.
Yes,
like,
literally. Like you kind of set up like a little apartment in.
in the middle of a field.
Yes, yes. Not even under like sunshade or anything. Then you also need the shade portion that you bring as well. Yeah.
Well, and this will be, speaking of sanctuary, safe places,
Yes.
homes, things you bring with you, this is going to be my first Folk Fest in 4 Folk Fest without my van.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh,
I
that's
know.
so weird.
It's weird. I had to
Bless
pack a bag. Bless Faye. But normally I pack my bins. I pack 2
Yes,
bins. Throw them
exactly.
in the van. I
Yes.
have my home.
Yeah.
I have my altar. I have my stuff. I have my lights. I have my
Yeah.
cozy things.
Yeah. You have yourself up off the ground.
Off the ground. I know. Oh my goodness.
Your poor bones.
Oh, my poor bones. It's okay. You know what? We're still limber enough. Enough. Yeah.
My back has not been limber the last couple of days. I was like, and initially I thought with my dye pots on the go lately, I've been like, it's going to be when my dye pots are moving that I'm going to be screwed. And then it was like I had like 2 days of waiting for yarn to dry before I could move to the next one. So I was like, I'm stiff. Noted.
Noted.
I
Yeah.
have to actually keep the moving happening.
I know. Oh, I feel that way in my hands now. If I've been working and I've been big making and I've been doing something.
Yes.
And then my hands feel stiff and it's like, oh, it's because we haven't done anything for 2 days. We have to keep moving. Yeah.
Oh, this is such an interesting thing. So at some point I want to stick with Folk Fest for a bit, but also your practice is one that does not lend itself easily to moving around. Like with knitting, I can literally shove yarn and needles in my bag and take it literally wherever, right?
Yeah.
And like if you are going to be moving a little bit more, then you're like, okay, I'll pack like a few sock skeins instead of a sweater because stitches wise, a pair of socks is like similar to a sweater and
Exactly.
but much more portable.
It's like it goes from like this big with socks to like this big with sweaters.
Exactly.
So you're like,
Exactly. So it's much easier to travel with, but it's like even if you're foraging your clay and your glazes, you need a fucking kiln.
Yeah.
Like there's no way to make
There's
a
no way
kiln
around
small.
that.
Like,
Yeah. Oh, there isn't. Well, and like there are small kilns,
Yeah.
but they're just like they're for testing.
right.
Like they're not for making and expressing to the extent that I want to and I
Yes.
need to.
Yes.
So yeah, it's its own burden. I'm loving the challenge.
Yes.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One day I'll build a kiln of my
Another
own.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like
I
you've
built them
built
for
multi-
other people.
Yes. I'm like, you've definitely built multiple kilns. But then you leave them in
I
the
leave
space.
them.
And then you leave the space. Yeah. Okay, so back to Folk Fest.
Of course. So just turning something else into my home, right?
Yes.
I didn't bring my tent with me. I couldn't fly because I flew.
Right, yes.
So like I couldn't even pack my tent.
So where the fuck are you staying?
I'm staying in a friend's tent.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes, this is what we do. with
This is
Folk
what
Fest.
we do. Yeah. You know, you're like, I need a tent. You got a tent.
Yeah, and usually you end up like staggering who's sleeping at what hours anyway. So it's like
definitely.
some people just literally don't sleep the whole time, which
Oh, I'm with sleepers. This is gonna be
good.
great. Yeah, and all of us agreed. I'm staying with 2 other friends.
Yeah.
Maybe a third.
Yeah.
And we're all like, so where do we want to camp? And all of us unanimously were like the quieter side of the field.
Yes.
Like, let's go away.
yeah.
And I have to admit, my first time ever camping at Folk Fest, I camped right in the middle of it all. And
Oh my
it was,
god, and you just don't sleep.
You don't sleep. And I heard drums in my head for days after days. Like waking up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night in my
Oh my
bedroom,
God.
hearing drums in my head. And it was just like, whoa, where am I?
It's just so much like stimulation.
It is,
And
yeah.
I don't think I've ever camped at Folk Fest. I've stayed long enough that I could have warranted camping, but I didn't. But like Yeah, there's points where you just need a fucking break.
A break. And I like that break.
Yeah.
I like that little bit of space.
Yeah.
I like being in the middle of everything.
Yes.
Stirring it up a little bit,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
You know, I'm
absolutely.
a bit of a shit disturber.
Yes, you are, which is part of what I love about it. But also, like, if a Tribe Called Red is playing, you're gonna be in the middle of the crowd and dancing.
Oh,
That's like the
yeah.
whole fucking point.
You'll never stop me from that.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. But then after,
Yes,
I
then-
want to go.
Yes. Yeah. And have a bit of a
I need a breather, you know,
Yeah.
I need a recap.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Well, and that's a safe space, right? Like that is like the bubble you build around yourself. Like that is
Yes.
that is your little cozy zone.
Yeah.
Is that space, that quiet space.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, when we think of the personal bubbles, it's like, okay, we like they can shrink right next to our skin. And like sometimes like, you know, bubble over on top of somebody else if we want them to. But then also it's like your own bubble can then come back to you and then like bubble itself out.
Definitely. Oh, absolutely. Well, and I'm always not always. I feel like recently, like there's the C word, you know, the vid.
Yeah.
That everyone's very much so about this like space bubble, this like
Yes.
this invisible barrier
Yeah.
kind of thing. I recently had a conversation with a dear friend of mine, and she was talking about your heart rhythm and how far the actual vibrations of your heart rhythm travels out of your body.
Yes.
Really lovely conversation. I like dug into it like a tick because I was like, this is perfect. But it's 2 meters,
Oh, fuck.
which is how far away
Yes.
you're supposed to stay from people in distancing situations,
Yes.
which has been a permeable barrier recently, which is lovely.
Yeah.
But for 2 plus years,
We couldn't.
we haven't been feeling other people's.
Which also like completely overlaps with, I mean, people are assholes generally, but like also recently, like the divisiveness, and not for like, you know, like there are good reasons that people are angry with other people, right? Like there are shitty things happening, and I am not a pacifist. There are many people who I would like to punch in the face.
Yes.
But there's also been a lot of like creating division and removing nuance from conversations where it's like, if you were to sit down and speak with that person over tea,
Oh,
then you may still come out of it disagreeing. But I think about it in the way that I was, for whatever reason, recently thinking about like, how do you explain to children how like being kind should be like the barest minimum, right?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
that if you are in relation with somebody else, whether that is a partner or with friends or whatever, like there are ways to be able to express full human emotion and to be upset with somebody or to feel angry and to feel hurt and to still express that in a way where you are not questioning their humanity or dehumanizing them in the process, right? Like there are ways to express full emotions and not deny yourself sadness or rage or anger or frustration or anything, but also to not turn it into, and you are therefore a terrible person, right? Like there are some people who are straight up terrible garbage humans, and I am very okay with them ending up in a ditch somewhere, but that's not the vast majority of humans, right? Like it's a very small percentage of people, and I think most people are ones where there's conversation that can be had, and that it, like I don't know that we always used to have it. Like I think social media is certainly not helping, and I do think that it is very actively harming in a lot of ways. I also think that social media has the capacity to connect us, and all it's doing is bringing to all of our attentions all the time in a way that our nervous system is not happy about or built to deal with.
Well,
the
it's
fact
a
that
splash, right?
Yes, it's a splash, and it's a mix of things. You know, it's like I'm going to show you like puppy videos, then I'm going to show you war, and then I'm going to show you a small business trying to sell their shit.
Yeah.
And somehow you're
like,
supposed to process
serotonin and like nervous system are just like
like,
doing
what the
it.
fuck? Yes, like there's a reason that social media's unplugging is not a bad thing.
It's the same trigger programs that addiction triggers and responds to,
Which is
right?
also like fully what, you know, those algorithms have been designed for is addiction. Like that's the whole fucking point of them. But it's also not as though humans weren't doing these things before as well. It's
Right.
just that we weren't aware of them happening at a global scale all the fucking time.
Well, and it's quite prescribed the way that you do it on social media, right?
Yes.
Like people like imagine, I want to take one step back to technology and go to like the MySpace.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
and even like, what is it, Hubba Hotel or like any of those things where
Yes.
they're like those little build your own world,
Yes.
have your little chat room,
Yeah.
have your group.
Yes.
But like the same stuff or like similar like energies of stuff was going through, but it wasn't uniformly programmed or like the recipe wasn't universal.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
Like
totally.
everybody could still kind of go their own way.
Yeah.
Now it's a recipe.
Yes.
It's a recipe for social media, and it just kind of
Well,
like,
and you
oh.
when you try to work against it, then you really have, like, I saw recently somebody who I follow who runs a small business who was like, kind of apologizing in the caption for the quality of the reel not being great, but the fact that reels are the thing that you need to use right now, which, like, because I've been offline for the most part, like I was checking things on my desktop every once in a while, but I wasn't checking things on any devices, which is what these things are used for.
Yeah.
And when I signed, like literally in order to do these lives, I had to add
Sign
Instagram back to my phone, which I have not had on my phone for probably close to 2 years, and it's been delightful. But as soon as I downloaded Instagram onto my phone, which also of course makes it the most recent version of Instagram, my feed was overwhelmingly reels, and then also half of it, and I turned it off because it still gives you the option to, we'll see how long that lasts, was every other post was also a suggested post. So it was much more like TikTok,
Yeah.
where
It's feeding
not,
you, it's feeding
yes,
you,
it's feeding you, and it's not feeding you things that you have consented to opting for, right? It's like the algorithm is like, okay, you seem to like this content, so I'm going to put this in front of you, but I haven't actually consented or
To that.
requested that particular person or that, like,
or that content.
Exactly.
Or like I don't necessarily
like, it's why I don't want TikTok. I'm like, I
Yeah.
like, generally, I don't need to scroll more, and B, I don't have capacity to be creating video content. It takes so long to make good video content. I'm not interested.
No.
But like, although we're doing this right now, but whatever. But like, to do this every single day, I mean, I am loving this, but
Yeah.
I have other shit to do as well. So like, this is fun on a schedule, and then we're done. But
that's it.
yeah.
We're fed.
Yes. But like, to be constantly like seeing that, and then also to not actually have any control over it. Like, you can't even be like, I like these people, and this is the group of people whose stuff I want to see. And if I decide that I want to see somebody else's stuff, I can go to the Explore tab, or I can find them through a different channel and add them into my feed. This is like, we're going to put them in your feed because we've decided that this is stuff you want to
This
see.
is what you want. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's-
Or this is what we want you to see.
Yes. Yeah. Just like, none of that shit. I'm not interested in any of it. But it's like, I mean, by choosing to not play the game, you are also, especially if you are reliant on it either for signal boosting, like I'm thinking of like nonprofits.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Oh,
like
then you have
activism.
to play the
You
game.
have
You
to.
have
And
to.
same with small businesses. Like, you have, if you are going to be on those platforms, you have to continue playing the game to some extent. And yeah, you're right. It's like, it's completely prescribed. It is like, here's this checklist
Yeah.
of how we are telling you you get to exist on this platform if you want anybody to see your shit.
Precisely. Well, and I think there's been a lot of language that I love that I'm hearing that is being spread through social media.
Yes.
Like a lot of care, a lot of community care, right?
Yes.
Like non-for-profits,
Yeah.
a lot of youth groups, because of
Yes.
course, like that, like the generation like a step and a half below us
Yes.
is entirely online.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
So-
is fucking wild, because we're of the generation that like...
Pre-internet.
Yes! I'm thinking of like when things used to like log on.
When the computer came into the house.
Yes, and then
Like-
you'd hear the like, you know,
Dial tone.
oh my god, and somebody would like get on the phone, but you're trying to do something on the internet, or like you're trying to call somebody, but somebody's on the internet. Like, these are things that post millennials do not understand.
Not at all.
But even also, like, I guess we're technically on the younger end of the millennial.
We are.
So it's-
We're in the transition era when computers came into schools.
Yeah, yes.
Computers came into the
Mavis
home.
Beacon was a thing
Yeah.
for grade 6, but not before that. Yes. But like, I cannot imagine growing up,
In
hi,
Quebec.
my love. Well, I was like, I can't imagine it either. Like, I cannot imagine trying to navigate like puberty and being a teenager and being a preteen and all that
I know.
with phones. Like, even like, and I also don't think, oh my god, Willow, she just loves you so much. Willow doesn't lick anybody on the face. She's like, this is my
Yeah, hair. This
But-
is my favorite laugh, though. This is the Willow interview now.
But like,
Sweet bean.
I can't imagine like trying to navigate that as a kid, never mind as like a parent or teacher trying to like help kids learn those healthy boundaries. And it's also not healthy or helpful to completely remove their access to it, because they are going to need to figure out how to deal with it.
Absolutely.
But it's it is tricky where it's like so much of growth, a very necessary part of growth and learning and evolving and becoming a human and continuing to be a human is fucking up
Oh, it is.
and learning from those fuck ups and then making better decisions at the next time. But we also are holding people to, and sometimes it's for good reasons, but a lot of times it's like, you made this mistake 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just think of like, thank fuck things like the social media world was not at the place that it is now for when I was
Oh
a
my
teenager
gosh,
or
could you
18.
imagine?
No, and like I wasn't even that bad of a kid, you know,
No.
but like there's shit that I think
But
of
you
and
make
I'm like,
mistakes, or you're with kids that
absolutely.
make mistakes.
Yes.
You're kids.
Yes,
You're
yes.
kids.
Your brain is literally not fully formed yet.
No.
And the thought of, okay, this is going to haunt them 30 years from now when they're trying to, do something with their career.
Yeah. Do you know what? I just had a really lovely conversation with a friend at the skate park.
Yes.
Because skate parks, I love skate parks.
Yes.
Like as social places, as like if you ever want to watch like human dynamic, go to a skate park and spend one day from sunrise till like midnight
Yeah.
at a skate park.
Yeah.
Just hunker down and watch what happens, because it is such a diverse group. I have just like the biggest laugh in the world.
Her face is so good.
She's
too.
so stoked about it.
She's so happy with life.
Oh.
Munchkin.
She's so sweet. I
Tiny
know.
pound
Yeah,
of
Munchkin.
I know. She's the largest munchkin in the world.
But skate parks have this lovely way of being a safe, potentially
Yes.
a safe place for so many people, which is
Yes.
not the rap that skaters
Get.
in history have.
Yeah.
But some of the most polite people that go beyond cancel culture
Yeah.
are the people that I know from the skate parks.
So interesting.
And then, so I roller skate at the skate park. I'm
Yes.
like a mediocre at best skateboarder.
You are? Oh, okay.
But as far
I was
as
like, you are
skate-
not
roller
mediocre.
skating goes, I feel like I'm pretty up there. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
I would
You know,
agree
my
with
little
that.
my little ego bump.
Yeah.
But talking to some other roller skaters that are new to skate park culture, it's very, oh, this is a dirty boys club, or this is that, and so they just cancel people. Oh, I knew that him when he was 14 and he did this one thing this one time, and
Oh
it's
my
like,
god.
whoa, but he's also the guy that picks up the beer cans
Yeah.
from whatever in the school field. He's the guy that has helped me out of the bowl if I've fallen.
Yeah.
And he's not damned for forever.
Yes, for
because of
something that he
this.
did at the age of 14.
Yeah, but I've had those conversations the most at skate parks because of how diverse the culture is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all walks of life, all ages, all this, all that.
Yeah, and where
Like-
everyone's actually like commingling with a shared
Space
Yes.
and action.
Yes.
You have no choice but to negotiate with lines, with equipment, with bowls, with whatever you're doing at a park. Like
Yeah.
it's like a landscape, right? Now we have giraffe.
We have a
upgraded.
headless giraffe. We lost the head a very long time ago. Willow likes to kill her stuffies and disembowel them, I guess, and then carry the half carcasses around for months. They last 5 minutes initially, and then,
And then
many
months.
months as carcasses.
I love it. You're so sweet. Oh, oh.
She missed her auntie.
I miss her. Well, and I like what public space,
Yes.
right? Like off social media,
Yeah.
can be for safe spaces.
Yes.
I love it. I absolutely adore it. Okay. accessible houseless spaces,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
A bench that allows you to sit safely.
Yes. Or to sleep safely.
To sleep safely.
Yeah.
A park that has a picnic table that you're not gonna get shooed off of or away from, you know?
Yeah.
A
Public
shelter that has
libraries.
public libraries. Oh,
They play
gosh.
such an important role.
you know what? And like historically, what the mall was supposed to be.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
It is not.
It is not that now, so
No.
I don't want to say malls because malls have a very different function in society
Yeah,
now.
they really do.
But what the mall was supposed to be a safe, shareable community space
Yes.
with living, with school, with grocery, with
Yeah.
outdoor space, with recreational space. Like it's supposed to be this interchangeable, intergenerational space.
Although I still have heard, a friend recently was talking about how her preteen recently, she like took them to the mall because there were like, the preteen and friends wanted to walk around the mall. And I was like, oh my God, I love that this is still a thing. Like, not that
nostalgia
you're gonna,
is strong.
Yeah, like not that you're going to do anything. And she was like, they ended up buying food because what else can you buy?
Yeah,
at
we
the
get an
mall
orange
these days?
Julius and we walk
Yeah,
around.
but that's also like when you have $10, that's literally all
That's
you
what
can
you
afford
can
at the
do.
mall these days.
Yeah. Oh, and they don't do the goodie bags at Claire's anymore or
No.
anything. Do you remember them?
Oh my God, yes.
I hated and loved them simultaneously.
100%.
It was
Yeah.
like $3
Yeah.
for like a little bag.
Of like stuff that's terrible.
Terrible.
Poorly made. But at least those people, like the other thing for me with the mall is that like those cheap stores where like you could afford to get it either which like I'm also like for folks that are on a lower income, it's also important to like maintain those spaces.
Absolutely.
Because when you look at like, okay, yes, they were made poorly with like questionable materials and under highly questionable labor.
But it's a garment. It's something that makes you.
Yes, and it's also something where the people who are making them are like at the more expensive stores, the exact same people sometimes are making them under the same working conditions and being paid the same shitty amount. And then there's somebody in the middle / higher up who is making a shit ton more profit, but it's not because the quality of the product is any better.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, which is also why when I'm like in a position where I'm not making my own clothing or like I needed bike shorts earlier this year.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, for me to sew bike shorts, I don't have a serger. Chances are really good.
Oh my God, and elastic.
Yes, and it's like such a technical garment and the fabric needs to be so technical. I'm like, okay.
Let's just go purchase this.
Yes,
Yeah.
and when I look at my options and I looked at my bank account, I was like, okay, I can't afford to buy the pairs that are going to be
bamboo cotton.
But even those ones,
ethically
I wouldn't even do bamboo cotton because the bamboo cotton is going to fall apart, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, I would rather buy
like the technical,
the synthetic fabric that also is going to last me for 12 years.
Yeah.
And so, at that point, then the lifespan of the garment is significantly better.
Yes.
And so you've changed the waste situation that way. But if I'm going to be buying something that's going to last me 12 years and it costs me $20 from Costco and the same item could cost me $120 from somewhere else, but I know that the manufacturing process, I'm going to spend the $20 because that extra $100 I can then put to use in a much more useful way.
It's
right?
choosing where your dollars go.
Yes, exactly.
And I know that sometimes that's a very controversial statement when people are like, oh.
But it's absolutely accurate. Like, no matter where, like, privilege completely comes into play with it. And it also still, like, again, if I don't have the budget to buy the $120 product anyway, but I can buy the $20 product, and let's say I have $40, so no, I don't have enough to spend the $120.
Yeah.
But I have enough to spend the $20 on that, and then I have an extra $20 that now I can do something else with.
Yeah, or
right?
just let it sit, or
or like buy slightly better groceries, right? Like, or go to the farmer's market to get my vegetables instead, right? Like, there's like using our dollars regardless of how many dollars we have and therefore what we're able to do with them, it is still a powerful thing. And
well, and lifespan with dollar value is important.
Yes.
Like, I think that that's something that sometimes gets talked about, but is never like in the forefront of those conversations.
Totally.
Right?
Which in textiles is super important. Like, you know, we were talking about like natural fibers, and that's most of my, other than these like technical product, you know, like bike shorts.
Yeah,
and
but
things.
you want things that feel
Otherwise,
good, right?
yes, it's all natural fibers, and I have to accept that that means that especially with the way that like we wear our clothes, right? Like our clothes.
We actually wear them.
Yes, and like, you know, we wear our clothes and we take them on adventures through our days and our lives. And we want our clothes to be able to do that. And when it's natural fibers, it does mean that they are going to wear out quickly.
Well, I was going to... So this is my favorite shirt.
And it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It is
Sounds
so stained, and I've repaired it so many times.
Yes.
And I've had to dye it because of how gross and stained it
But
was.
this is why... So it started off as a white shirt.
It was a bright pink shirt. It was like a soft...
Really?
It was a soft pink shirt.
Oh my god.
I know.
And it's now this like lovely
Like,
sand color.
Sand, yeah. And most of this might be my body.
Yeah, 100%. That is part of what it does. Bodies absolutely
man.
change. Like, with
Yeah.
natural dyes, it does it just in a much more explicit way, where it's like, the salt of your underarms
Has literally... Oh, we are different colors everywhere, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also
like,
just like general, like it happens with synthetic dyes as well.
It totally does. It
Right.
does. I just feel like the investment of a natural dyed product means that it's going to change and
Yes.
evolve, and you're going to see it and you're going to grow with it.
Yeah.
Whereas I do synthetically dyed objects are like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Or what is it, acid
Hi.
dye? Is
Yeah.
that, yeah. There we go. Thank you. It's like, ugh.
My-
I'm like a dirt dyer, so I was like, oh.
Yeah, you're like, what do I do with this?
I'm like, I put onion skins in a jar once, and it was great.
I made soup.
I made soup. Yeah, done. But that was like, those are the conversations that I love. We had a conversation like 2 Christmases ago about dyeing sheets and
Yes.
then re-dyeing sheets.
Yes.
And having the conversation with people that it's like, these are going to change, these are going to wear out, we're going to re-dye them.
Yeah.
And the fabric is good.
Yes.
Like, there is nothing
Yeah,
wrong with those
the
sheets.
textile itself is still perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But even like my synthetically dyed sheets have absolutely changed color, and you can actually like
You can see where I've been sleeping.
Right, exactly. So it's like if my naturally dyed ones are going to do that and do it a little bit more visibly on a quicker schedule, it still ends up being the same thing.
Yeah.
And so why not use my natural dyes, right?
Well,
Like,
and then it's your space that you've created.
Yes.
It's your colors.
Yes.
It's your, you've picked the things. You've grown the things.
exactly.
Like,
Or I've like sourced the, like, I mean, literally all of the
Sorry. Just threw a frisbee at them. Sorry.
like the textiles that I used for the sanctuary photo shoot, which was also like literally these are all projects that are going to end up in the book. So I was like, okay, great, I got them done in time to then get photos done for the hub. And it like there's something just so much nicer about lying in a bed of things that you have dyed yourself, knit, sewn. Like I made the quilt with a mix of naturally dyed fabrics and printed fabrics, and then I know they're so pretty, and it's so much fun.
Trying
to
not
just
to
like
fangirl over the piece is really hard. It's like,
but they're so much fun. And the thing too, when you combine the natural dyes into it, is that like when I actually looked at these printed fabrics, I was like, okay, there's actually like quite a bit of clashing happening. And
it
I
works,
would, yes, when you add the natural dyes in, it blends them in a way where you're like, okay, this is now no longer hurting my eyeballs. It's now very cohesive and lovely. And then same like a bunch of the textiles so like the quilt was made with old bed sheets that I dyed to then cut apart to then mix with the prints. I dyed multiple used pillowcases that I got from the secondhand store. And so like this is the thing too, right? Is that you can literally be making your physical nests and sanctuaries with secondhand objects. My love, what are you doing?
She's just looking for another. Okay, we have like 3 toys on the ground right now, and she's doing laps looking for another toy.
Yeah. But no, don't eat that. Hey, she's trying to, no.
She's like, I want that piece.
Stop. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You're like, no. Hi, sweet bean. But like have you? Obviously you've explored the word sanctuary, obviously, and what it means, and how it's changed. Because I feel like the term sanctuary has so many meanings.
It really does. It's such an interesting one because, like, when I think sanctuary, my brain is immediately picking it apart from, like, the church specific. Like, I think literally of, like, especially having traveled and gone to very old churches, I literally think of these, like, old stone church sanctuaries. That have a very different feeling than, like, new churches.
Yeah.
But then I also think of the role that, like, faith-based spaces play in, and also cities play in sanctuary as far as, like, immigrants and refugees, and then
oh my god, I have such a relevant thing to add. Yes.
and then like to separate it out from there, it's like, okay, what's safe space, and like safe and holy. And I think, like, especially as a witch and with the snort and cackle conversations I've been having over the last year with people, the idea of the word holy for me no longer has the same baggage that it did
when it was church related.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. So the first time I heard the word sanctuary, and I remember this very thoroughly because my parents have always done a really good job of explaining things to me, rights and wrongs, social dynamics, appropriate, inappropriate. Appropriation was very early on in our education as children. But the first time I heard the word sanctuary, do you remember the movie The Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Yes.
Okay, so he calls for sanctuary.
Yes.
At the end, it's like the end scene, he has like the Esmeralda character like in his arms and he's yelling sanctuary.
Yeah.
And it literally was just protection from the church, like a non-violent zone, a safe place.
Yes.
Right?
Which, like, the irony of that / the irony
was
generally
that
of
it was
organized
a terrible
religion.
place.
Yes, right. But it's like
I'm
you're
not
calling for sanctuary from the space that is supposed to offer you
sanctuary. And I don't know, like, that movie has to change a little bit to fit into current social cues.
Love it.
A little bit. A little duck snack.
I haven't actually watched it in a really long time, but I remember just like
well,
being
the
so
Court
in
of
love.
Miracles was the characters that are kind of the underground, right? It's supposed to be this den, this nest, this safe hidden place, and it was like directly under the church, I think.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, in the movie. But that was supposed to be sanctuary, and then this other sanctuary over it. So there's a little bit of like a power dynamic there that I don't necessarily agree with.
But I also think it's really interesting because it's almost like it's poking at it and questioning it and like kind of, you know, like in the way that Disney does / does not address things.
Yes.
Kind of poking at it and being like, nah, if you dig a little bit, like just scratch it a little bit.
Like, you don't have to go very deep. Literally just like buff the dust off.
Yeah.
You know? there's a pretty big conversation to be had under there.
Yes. We're going to put it into the kids movie, but also
just so we know. But I that idea of like somebody calling and bringing sanctuary.
Yes.
A safe space. What was supposed to be protection, or what is depicted as protection.
Yeah.
And I think that building that nest around yourself, this nest
Yes.
yourself, right?
Yes.
This nest, how many times have we nested onto this couch?
Yes.
And basically called ourselves into sanctuary.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Like, and
so
and
true.
we've worshipped, and we've laughed, and we've definitely cast spells.
Sometimes intentionally and many times not.
Not most of the time. It's like, oops, we just did that.
Also, the number of hexes that we accidentally cast.
Oh my god, I know.
Which, like, is, you know.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
It's fine.
It's good.
It's never, like, a really terrible.
We've never done anything terrible.
No.
Okay, this is another word that I want to, like, change the meaning of, or redigest. I love the word terrible. I love it.
Yes.
In all of its, like, dynamic socialness, like,
Yes.
terrible is something great. And I always, again, I'm going to mention another movie or book.
Yeah.
But in Lord of the Rings, when like the Elf King goes, and I want to be terrible, right? And it's the idea of being this greater than self and everything, this big being, and I don't mean like size wise necessarily, but just like big and power wise, and that can be here, that could be here, that could be here, but it can be this terrible thing, and I love the word terrible.
That's so true. It is like, it's like doesn't fully need to have a negative connotation, right? It is just this thing of being like overwhelming power, but like not in a way either of automatically being oppressive, which I
Yeah.
think is also really interesting.
It's so interesting. But when you hear somebody and they're talking about if they're having a bad day, what word did they use? Terrible.
Yeah,
My
it's
day was
terrible.
terrible. Oh, these little things happened. Well,
Yeah, it's not really terrible. Yeah, exactly.
If you're really using the word appropriately.
It's not terrible.
It's not
You stubbed your
terrible,
toe.
You know?
That
so
was shitty.
a church can be a sanctuary, but you know,
It can be a little terrible.
terrible.
Yep. Maybe a lot terrible.
Maybe a lot
maybe really
terrible.
big.
Yeah. So I just like these phrases, these words, these like spells.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Words are completely spells.
Words are spells.
And they
Names
are also,
and words.
Yes.
Ooh.
And it's a really interesting thing because the nuance of words, like language is so important and it is also perpetually limited and limiting. And which I think is also where language is really beautiful because it evolves. And that is where I get so annoyed / pissed off with people who want to police other people's language and grammar because I'm like, the whole fucking point, like, you're often dealing with people that are like, well, but the right language is blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, the examples that you are drawing from, if like Shakespeare, people are often like,
Oh my God, I know.
Shakespeare is da da da. I'm like, the closest actually to Shakespeare's traditional English is Newfoundland English, which
Yeah. Oh
I
my
deeply,
gosh.
deeply, deeply love.
Yeah, if
But
you can understand it.
this is the thing, right? Like, as an East Coaster with Cape Breton roots and PEI roots, for me to go to rural Newfoundland
You're basically
to a
fluent
fishing,
already.
Yes, I am. It's quite easy for me. However, most people would
As
not
a
be
prairie person coming
you're like,
in
I don't know.
with,
Oh.
and it was just like,
Defolk.
what? Oh, one more time slower?
It's not going to help.
No, you actually have to speed it up.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
I was
true.
like, I need you
Because
to-
then your brain
yeah.
actually needs to like roll with it and like not actually stop to think about what is happening. But it is the
Usually
closest.
it's an invitation into their kitchen.
Yeah,
is what
completely.
they're asking you.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
at the end of the day, no matter what people are saying,
It's an-
either, do you want fish?
Yeah.
Do you want to come have tea in my kitchen?
Yes.
And you're like, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
The
yes.
answer is always
yes.
yes.
And if you stay long enough, then you get screech and you're like,
Yes. Kiss the cod. But like it is the closest actually, like the linguists have studied and found that it is the closest to Shakespeare's traditional English.
Yeah.
And when we think of, even like when I look at like herbalism, often references to historical Western herbalism will show, like a quote from Culpeper or something,
Yeah.
and they'll keep the old English writing in, and I'm like, we recognize that word as being this.
Yeah.
But
And it's
because
not that
it is-
anymore.
No, but it's
Or-
close enough that we're like, oh yes, okay, this word is this, even though the spelling is completely different. And yet, those same people who are going to claim that language is this historical fixed thing are the same ones that are then saying language cannot be this, or language cannot be, somebody else's version of
Yeah.
the same language,
Or it
or
belongs
gender.
to me.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think of, but then meanwhile they will absolutely appropriate other people's language into their own speech.
Without even knowing it, though.
Yeah,
Without
yes,
even knowing it.
yes.
Yeah, and then claiming it, and
Yeah.
that's such a tricky, sticky, lovely situation.
Samson says, we're still good. Samson says, a few more rum drinks helps it all make sense, which is very true. The more
That is a
you
fact.
drink,
Yeah.
the easier it is,
Yeah.
/ the stronger my own accent gets.
I was gonna say,
actually.
I feel like I pick up the accent
You
now.
do, yes.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't, like, whenever I get drunk, my Maritimer comes out hardcore, and then when I am with other Maritimers, it
Just like,
Samson and I we get real good. It's quite fun.
I'm still at the point where it's like, I just need to sit back a
Yes.
little bit.
Yes.
And it's like,
But you do literally need to sit back. Like, I
Yeah.
do also remember I was talking yesterday with my family about how when I was traveling around Europe, honestly, the hardest time that I had communicating was in Poland, because I am Polish, but I do not speak Polish,
yeah.
other than to swear. Not particularly useful. And,
No.
like, Poland is a country where having a second language is not guaranteed to help you. Like, depending on where in the country you are and what the closest border is, if you
Yeah.
speak the language of that other country across the border, you may be able to navigate a little bit
little
in that
bit,
area,
yeah.
but not really. And then, so I had a hard problem in Poland, and then fucking Scotland, which is my other, like, my two ancestral homes, which, like, Scotland, I should be fine. And there was one point where I was...
Have you actually, oh no, you've sat in a Scottish bar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No.
and you're like-
Never mind a Scottish bar. I was at a family barbecue outside Glasgow. So, like, we're also talking Glaswegian Scottish.
Yeah.
And
Which is like
everyone
a particular flavor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love it. But, like, everyone was drinking. It was the middle of a sunny afternoon. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I realized I could not understand a fucking word, and I had no idea where the conversation had gone. And I tried to bring myself back in, couldn't and just
do it.
accepted it and just sat back and was like, all right, everyone's going to chat around me.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just recently had a very similar situation
Yes.
in Spain when I was in Spain. Spain.
Love it.
But we went out to dinner, and I'm Anglophone, or like I speak English.
Yes.
My Spanish mediocre at best, but if we talk, at a medium pace, I get it.
Yes.
I get it. I will respond in like
In broken
English Spanish.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I can do it. I can do it. Except where we were, Catalan is
Oh.
like the primary language.
Yes.
And then mixed in with Spanish.
Yes.
The friends that we were with were French. And then the other friends that we were with were English that speak German and Dutch. And then a little bit of Portuguese and a little bit of this. So we're at a table. We went to an Italian restaurant in Spain, reading an Italian translated into Spanish menu in Catalan, while a bunch of French people are having a conversation. And it was
Oh
like,
my god, your poor brain.
my-
See,
oh,
this
thank you,
is
thank
also
you.
the thing that, like, when I'm in French, like, it's actually a problem for me when I am trying to speak French, but my brain hasn't fully gone into it yet. And, like, I can understand a whole conversation in French. That's not the problem. The problem is my own language to then speak back. You start
speaking the language.
Yeah, exactly. But then, like, the problem for me is that my brain is thinking in the one language, and then if you trip up in that language or you take too long to respond, the people will automatically they assume that, oh, you don't understand this, so I'll switch to the other language.
And I'm like, no.
Your brain breaks. Like,
Yeah.
I get stuck, and when I think of my friends who speak multiple languages all the time and
my
are
gosh.
regularly like
Switching
living,
them?
yes, and
Oh,
like,
my goodness.
especially when they're working in a language that is not their mother tongue.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, how is your brain not always getting stuck? Like, my brain
Mine
gets
would be on
stuck.
fire.
Like,
Like, on fire.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
the
you just, like,
hamster-
it's like you don't understand any language, and it's like, you speaking to me in English in this moment is actually making it worse because I had half formed a sentence in French, and you switched the language on me, and now I don't know how to speak in either language.
Yeah, and I'm like,
broken.
yeah. I going from Spain to Italy was one of the things where I was like, right, Italian,
Different.
right, and I knew it. I know, like, Italian is different than Spanish.
Yes.
But my brain didn't click until I landed, and I tried to navigate, and I was speaking Spanish, and I was like, wait a minute, you're staring at me, and it was like, oh.
Wrong thing. But and
I'm
also
asking for
where they're
instructions
like,
in the wrong language.
yes, and also where it's like they're similar languages, right? Because they have the
Yeah.
same root.
Exact
And
same
so-
root. Even some of the little nuances.
Yes,
of,
and like the
of
sentence
cadences.
structure thing,
Yeah.
same, yeah.
Whoa! And then every once in a while I'm like, loading, buffering,
Yeah.
buffering. Oh, okay.
Well, and the other thing that I find really interesting, speaking of sanctuary, and like I think it's so. I would love to speak way more languages than I do, and
Me too, yeah.
I'll find it really interesting in terms. I've always found this like stories of people who are forced to move and leave stories behind, and what stories get left behind, and what stories are half told, and all that. Like, all of that has always fascinated me, and in theater was always what I was like
Oh,
interrogating.
that's what theater's for,
right?
right?
But in terms of language and the way that that can carry along with us, the way that the brain, when it is hurt or is aging, and it begins to shift, and how the role of language plays into that. Like, when my grandma spoke 8 different languages. English was her last one. And so when she had a stroke, she had to rebuild. She had many strokes by the end of her life.
Yeah.
Don't smoke.
Yeah,
But
don't do it, kids.
she had to work with a speech pathologist to get her language back, and it got to the point where they're like, okay, she's almost got it, but we can't get her V's and her W's. She's saying that, she wants some water, and
Yeah.
and we're
But
like,
that's coming from so many.
well, and we're like, that's actually how she spoke
Spoke.
before.
Yeah, so
like,
she's
so
perfect.
she's good now because she's Polish. Like that is our V's and
literally
our
how
W's.
she pronounces them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then,
if you corrected that, it would mess up every other language.
yes,
she speaks.
exactly. And then like my
That's not something to laugh about.
well, but it's true.
This is true.
Yeah, and then like my adoptive grandpa, he recently passed, but he's Turkish, and so as he over this last year, he started speaking in Turkish more regularly, and he'd be in the middle of a conversation with you, and completely like unbeknownst to him suddenly be speaking Turkish, and I don't speak Turkish, but it was also really interesting, and I would get annoyed when other people would interrupt him and try to fix they'd be like, like
Yeah,
so and
yeah.
so, like, you're speaking in Turkish or speak English or da da da, or they'd try and translate, and I'm like, no, let him keep talking, because the story that he is telling me with the amount of English that he spoke it in, and then the context, I'm actually able to follow.
The story.
Yeah, the story itself I can follow even though I don't understand the language.
And I think like you have that magical ability too. I think from theater.
Yes.
Like your
that's true.
Your theater and
Yeah.
your ability to read
Yes.
like into that space
Yes.
is so important for that.
Yeah.
But
But if you're interrupting it, then it's like, okay, well now I've lost that thread.
yeah.
And so
And it's
now
so
the
hard to
fact that I
pick
don't
again.
speak the Turkish is a problem. But
Mhm.
before
It
I was
wasn't.
following what he was telling. But yeah, it's so interesting the way that language can be casting spells all the time, intentionally and unintentionally.
It's the unintentional. It's like us hexing.
Yeah,
And we're
yes.
like, whoops.
Didn't mean to do
Didn't
that.
do that, but we
Shoot.
should.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually I don't mind it.
Yeah, this is true. Usually the hexes are, needed, but necessary. I totally just realized that we're coming up on our hour. This is what we do, though.
And we're gonna sit here, like we're gonna turn you guys off,
And we're just going to keep on going.
but like, we probably won't move except to
Well-
like caffeinate and hydrate.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of which, we're going to have some coffee out of
I'm
this.
so excited.
Although I don't have the good beans, unfortunately. I need to get good beans from you.
Goodness,
That's
of
also,
course.
so Grace is also a coffee roaster extraordinaire. So, do you have any final thoughts about Sanctuary? And also, what are you up to? Where can people find your work? Where can they buy pottery from you?
Love that. I'll start with that technical stuff first because otherwise I'll forget to do it. So I am on the Instagram. I'm on the gram. I'm also not on the TikTok because I'm not cool enough.
We're too old for that shit.
Yeah, like I don't deal with that. But Grace W. Boyd on Instagram. My website is currently unoperational, so please don't go to it. But it'll be a mixture of my adventures, my opinions, and my work.
I'm so excited for that. Oh, by the way.
And then for Sanctuary, I mean, this right now is my favorite Sanctuary. I got to be in a safe space in a sanctuary with one of my lifelong friends, Josh, yesterday. I get to come home to my childhood bedroom and be in that sanctuary that is now very different.
Yes.
But it smells like me. It still smells like me. New paint and a new carpet can't get that out. I am a stinky, stinky human. But those places, and those places that I have built.
Yes.
And we have built this together.
Yes.
And a friendship that has lasted a lifetime. We have built that safe space, that sanctuary, that my tower, my nest, my castle, my my backpack.
Yes.
Like those are built places.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love this where it's again and it feels so very you of like that combo of like deeply rooted and extremely physical spaces that are like as permanent as spaces can be.
Yeah.
And then also this portable altar sanctuary that you carry with you on all of your travels. It's like the two sides of the coin.
That work for the most part.
I think so. This has been so delightful. I'm so happy that you're home. So Grace is going to be as long as you're not traveling.
Yeah.
I say this, who knows in the moment.
I was like, I
The
don't know.
plan is that Grace will be one of the models for our photo shoot for the book when we are doing that later.
I'm so excited.
I am too.
So
and
excited.
you can join in the behind the scenes of all of that goodness by joining the Sanctuary Hub. You can find the link in my profile for that. And also there is an exclusive shop which right now has some lovely herbal remedies, but will also end up housing some of Grace's goodies. So if you are looking for some delightful cuddle cups and wonderful things, you'll be able to find those eventually in the Sanctuary Hub. And then we will create some video content when it comes time for the photo shoot.
Promise.
Fine. I guess we can do that. I'm not opening a TikTok account just for that though.
But maybe we'll try a reel.
Yeah, we could try that.
Whatever these real things are.
Yeah, I might actually make some reels later. We'll see how that goes. But thank you all so much for joining us. We are going to go and drink some coffee now and continue cuddling Willow, who of course is like, oh, it's the end of the conversation. Let me crawl into your lap
Calmly.
now and fall asleep. Classic. So thank you
timing.
all so much, and we will see you again tomorrow. We're going to be here with my really lovely friend Hannah Lisa, who is the founder and CEO of Making Stories magazine, and she is in Berlin, so she won't be physically here. But next time, maybe you go to Europe, then I'll
I was
just
gonna say.
I'll just attach myself
so
to
when are
your
we going
bag.
to Berlin? My backpack's
Samson,
packed.
oh my God, Samson has a TikTok. Okay, perfect.
Excellent. Done.
TikTok, Samson. How is a boomer the TikTok? Oh wait, you wrote TikTok as in a clock.
Are they
Yep.
spelled different?
There's no C's in TikTok.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
we're that cool, people.
I
All right.
would have definitely spelt it the right way.
Oh my God, yes. Okay, anyway, on that note, thank you all so much for joining, and I'll see you here tomorrow with Hannah Lisa, and the replay will be up assuming the tech gremlins decide to play nice with us. So,
Please play nice.
thanks everyone.